And what was billed as the most anticipated game in spring football history, last Saturday, the Birmingham Stallions took down the St. Louis Battlehawks in a thriller, 30-26, to remain unbeaten this season. This week, Birmingham will stay at home as they try to improve on their 7-0 record against the Houston Roughnecks. Kickoff is set for Saturday at 7 p.m. Joining me now to preview the action and more is the host of State of the Stallions, Luke Miller. Good morning, Luke. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Wonderful, wonderful. We appreciate your time this morning. You know, the match didn't disappoint last week. The scoring was back and forth. Each defense came up with some big plays. Special teams had their own moments, including a 61-yard field goal for St. Louis as well as a blocked punt. But in the end, the Stallions get it done. What were your takeaways from the game?
Well, it certainly lived up to the hype. You're definitely right about that. I thought it was a fantastic game. Two very evenly matched teams. You know, both teams made some mistakes. Both teams made some big plays. And I thought it was really going to come down to maybe who had the ball last, which it pretty much did, other than the fact that blocked punt gave St. Louis one final chance. But the Stallions defense really answered the call there at the end and got pressure on A.J. McCarron and kind of locked down the St. Louis receivers when they really, really needed to be able to pull out the win.
Early in the season, speaking of quarterbacks, Birmingham head coach Skip Holtz alternated between quarterbacks Adrian Martinez and Matt Corral. Both played well, to be fair, and more importantly, the team kept winning, but it seems pretty clear now that Martinez will be the guy going forward, barring injury. What have you liked about the way he's run the Stallions offense?
Well, you know, I watched both these guys in college, and given that fact, I was a little bit higher on Corral coming into the season just because I saw what he did at Ole Miss. Nothing against Martinez, but you know, when Martinez has gotten in the games this year, I think everybody knew that he was a dynamic playmaker, especially with his legs. I don't think there was any doubt about that. So, you know, and that's certainly proven to be the case. I mean, he's had some incredible plays. He's one of the top rushers in the league, despite the fact that he's only played at this point, you know, about 4 or 5 of the 7 games. So that's been, you know, as expected. But what's really impressed me about him is just the fantastic accuracy that he's demonstrated with his arm. I mean, he has been on the money on some deep balls, you know, moving the ball down the field. And I've been just really impressed with, you know, the way he's thrown the ball this year. He's had multiple games of over 300 yards, which I think he's the only quarterback in the UFL to have this season. So, you know, both in terms of his arm and his legs, he's really been the complete package for the Stallions.
Well, and to that point, Birmingham leading the league in both passing and rushing offense this year in the UFL. And I would agree with you. Martinez's poise in the pocket has been really impressive to me. And he's mentioned in some of his post-game press conferences that he feels like he's got a ton of weapons, and that gives him a lot of confidence where he doesn't have to force it to one guy. I actually covered him when he was at Nebraska. And to be fair, there were not a lot of weapons on that team. So to see him actually have an opportunity to take a second, go through his reads, and hit a guy is actually fun to watch from my perspective. Is it fun to see this offense go up and down the field from what you're seeing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they've had a great offense the past 2 seasons. But, I mean, this year, because of the merger, because of some moves in free agency, I think the depth that this offense has, you know, at all spots. I mean, the offensive line is fantastic. They got most of their linemen back from last year, and then they added some really good guys in free agency. And so it all starts up front with those guys. And then, you know, on the perimeter, they've got some incredible receivers, some guys that were there again formerly, some new guys. But, you know, Deion Kane and Amari Rogers, both out of Clemson. Kevin Austin out of Notre Dame had a huge game this past weekend. Marlon Williams, who grew up down in Mobile and played at UCF, was one of the top receivers in the country coming out of high school. He's been huge. And then one of my favorite guys to watch, who came on to the Stallions at the late last year but didn't really get a full body of work, is Ricky Person Jr., our running back, who, you know, Cole Kubelik here out of Birmingham, he interviewed him on the sideline a couple weeks ago, and he asked him, he's like, you know, man, like, you just run angry. Like, where does that come from? And Ricky is just he's a good-sized running back who also has great speed and agility. But, I mean, he's just out there running dudes over left and right. And it's awesome to watch him because he is just I don't think he's going to be with the Stallions long. We'll put it that way. I think NFL teams are going to come calling for him. But they're really, I think there's no glaring weaknesses on this offense. And you put a guy who's as dynamic as Martinez back there to distribute the ball to all of these different playmakers, and it's fun to watch.
Well, and that's the great thing about this league is that there's no secret that all these guys want to move on. They want to move to the NFL, and their teams are giving them opportunities to showcase their talent to hopefully be able to do that. And so it's fun to see them putting their best foot forward every single game for that opportunity. But let's switch to the defensive side of the ball. Birmingham only allowing 15 points per game, leading the league. You know, you can always be more aggressive when you're playing with the lead, which the Stallions thankfully have done for most of the season. But on top of that, it seems like Birmingham defensive coordinator John Chavis, a.k.a. the Chief, has been putting together outstanding game plans each week.
Yeah, no, he really has. And I think one of the best things that the Stallions have going for them is continuity. Skip Holtz has been the head coach now for going into his third year, and John Chavis has been the defensive coordinator, sort of his right-hand man, for 3 years as well. And he's a fantastic defensive coordinator, one of the most experienced guys out there, was a DC for multiple different SEC teams for, decades. And he really understands, I think, how to get the most out of his guys. And they were a solid defense last year, but I think they felt like the offense was really the strong suit of the team last year. And so they were really aggressive in free agency, acquiring some new talent and bringing in some new guys they thought could help them. And Chavis has really done a great job getting the most out of those guys thus far this season.
This week, Birmingham back at home against Houston. The Roughnecks just 1-6 on the season. And actually, earlier in the season when these two teams met in Houston, the Stallions throttled them 32-9. Should we expect anything different in front of the home fans Saturday?
We shouldn't expect anything different. Of course, this could maybe be billed as a trap game because, it's a Saturday night game. It's on ESPN2. It doesn't have maybe quite the same hype as this past weekend. Houston has really struggled. And so, I think Skip probably this week in practice is going to be preaching that to the guys that, this is kind of the perfect trap game. But, assuming the Stallions show up like they have in previous weeks, which I expect them to, then I don't expect it to be a very close affair.
Okay, so fair enough. But regardless, the Stallions have locked up a playoff berth already. That's fantastic for the home fans because they're going to have home field advantage in the first round before hopefully getting to that UFL championship game in St. Louis. Head coach Skip Holtz has been engaging with the players and the fans throughout the season. As someone who covers the team on a daily basis, how nice is it to have a winning franchise right here in the state of Alabama?
It's awesome. I mean, I think Alabama, is known for winning football, whether that's the University of Alabama or that's Auburn University. I mean, both schools have had, incredible national championship seasons in the past, 10 years or so. And so there's obviously a reputation and a tradition of excellence in football here. And unfortunately, over the years, we haven't necessarily had that in professional football because some of the leagues that have been here have kind of come and gone. But the Stallions were here back in the 80s. They had an excellent team back then. Unfortunately, they didn't win any championships. But this Stallions team has really picked up where that one left off and taken it to a new level. I mean, the Stallions right now are in 3 seasons are 28-3. They've won back-to-back championships. And, unless, obviously we don't know what the future holds, but it's very possible that this year's team could run the table and get a three-peat under their belt. So, I mean, people that follow this stuff, people that really get into the spring football stuff like me, I mean, I think that the term dynasty is being thrown around a lot. And to have that, here in our home state, I mean, we all love football and we especially love winning football. So, it's been really awesome to see, not only we have a professional football team here in the state, but it's really the class of the league by far. And I think anybody will agree with that. Even the people that don't maybe like us so much will have to admit that there's just nobody quite like the Birmingham Stallions out there right now in spring football.
Fair enough. You can check out his content on the State of the Stallions YouTube page. There they got a ton of content from breakdowns, game previews, and something on Horsegate. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Very intriguing, in-depth journalism that you need to know about. If you enjoy the Stallions, you'll love their channel. Luke Miller, thank you so much for your time this morning. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.